computer. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Puchaline Nivasisha Sundyavari Pushtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so let's just try and give a little summary. Can everyone just put your microphone on mute unless you want to ask a question or say something? Kind of helps to concentrate. Okay, I'm just manually putting some devotees on mute. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the chapter is called The Importance of Abhidaya Gyan, and I might read some segments from it to give us a more clear understanding of the beginning. Abhidaya Gyan, Maharaj, or the Vedic Scriptures, and Maharaj gives a synopsis of it. It's basic knowledge of how to conduct ourselves as servants of Krishna and how to follow the path. Sambandha Gyan is knowledge of the jiva, of the Lord, of material nature, and the interrelation. Yeah. So the essence is that we are Krishna's servant. So how to conduct oneself as a servant of Krishna, and how to follow the path. Yeah. So the Maharaj mentions the essence of the book, which is making different steps on this path to obtain Krishna. There's many different steps, and it requires different types of determination. So in order to make concomitant sankalpas and a clear vision, we need Abhidaya Gyan. We need to know about that process and how to conduct ourselves as sadhakas. Okay. And then Maharaj gives a synopsis of the Vedas' general conception of Abhidaya. So the Vedas give many different varieties of goals. And let me just read this paragraph here. It's very nicely written. Sanat Goswami further clarifies the regulative emphasis that the Vedas give to varying objectives of life. He concludes that scriptures teach mostly about economic development, somewhat less about sense gratification, still less about religiosity, even less about liberation, and the least about devotional service. For sense enjoyers who desire wealth and pleasure, the Vedas recommend a variety of sadhanas based on the regulating the activities of body and mind and speech. And for more regulated, for the more religious minded, there are more limited practices based on charity, pilgrimage, good conduct, and austerity. For those desiring liberation, there's even less means for purification. That means Astanga Yoga. And for those who are endeavoring to obtain pure devotion, there's only one prescription. Anyone can say what it is, that one prescription? Or there's 9 of them? Oh, I can't hear, so I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Someone speaking there?
Chanting.
Oh, I can hear you now, yeah. Yeah, what's the 9?
Navada Bhakti.
Yeah, that's it. That's let's go through them, yeah. Shravanam,
Kirtanam,
Vishnu
Smaranam,
Smarana Padasevanam.
Padasevanam, Dasyam Sakyam, Atmanivedanam.
Yeah, Atyam Nivedam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. Yes, so that's the practices for those who want to obtain pure devotion. I better do this. I better do this summary pretty quick, otherwise it'll be 7 o'clock.
It's already
okay. Let me try and fast track a bit. So this is the top range of perfect. This is the pinnacle of perfection. So although it's simple, Marge mentions the application is not so easy. Yeah. He explains about Gopa Kumar. His quest was very difficult. Indeed, so elusive was the practice that even Narad's mercy could not be of much help in bringing the fruition. Now that is something Marge mentions. So to make this sadhana for Raj Bhakti successful, we need the mercy of Krishna and his associates is required. Our good fortune is that as Krishna himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, descended to this world along with his associates, bestowed that special mercy on those willing to accept it. Yeah, then Marge begins to speak about the holy name, that even without knowledge, it can give some type of progress, but albeit very slow. And when one has more sambandha or abhidaya again, then the process acts much more quickly. Anyway, let's just get to the reading. Let's go to 373. And let's have someone can read from the paragraph. You see the 4 asterisks. Just below that, it says, Srila Prabhupada, I'd like to use the word scientific.
I can read, but if anybody
Yeah,
else...
go ahead.
Which, oh yeah. Okay, Srila Prabhupada like to use the word scientific in regards to the process of Krishna consciousness. Knowledge of all 3 phases of bhakti, sambandha, abhidaya, and prayojana are scientific. And the systematic grasp of that knowledge ensures that a devotee's faith remains solid in the face of inevitable changes he faces on his journey.
Yeah. Challenges he faces, yeah.
Challenges he faces on his journey to prema. While a younger devotee has a general understanding of love of Godhead, the more advanced delves deeper into what love means and to which form of God his love should be directed. Of course, such spiritual development must be natural, following the principles. You can read that. Sway Dikari.
Sway Dikari ye nishta.
Acting according to qualifications.
Yeah,
However,
you understand that? Is that before we can progress to the next stage, we have to be solidly situated on one specific stage in order to go to the next stage. And we shouldn't artificially try to obtain a stage which is beyond our adhikar or qualification. So step by step, shanai shanai. So as he says, according to qualification.
what was that word you said? Shanai, Shanai.
Shanai, Shanai means steady. There's a verse, I think it's in the Brahma Samhita.
I've heard that, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Shanai, Shanai, it means that Krishna is obtained step by gradual advancement.
Okay. Yeah.
Shanai, Shanai.
It's a Sanskrit word which means slowly, slowly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Slowly, but surely.
Surely.
Often we're impatient, but actually, because
yeah,
we're going
you're waiting, Murli Prabhu. We've been waiting so long.
Yeah, because we're trying to obtain the highest thing. So we have to be very patient. But Shanai, Shanai.
Nice. Yeah.
Today was a hard day because was getting nowhere with Krishna consciousness today. Anyway, what to do? Okay.
Anyway, these are all moods of Ripalamba Bhav, which you're speaking about, which is good.
Hankering for his love.
It was just hard work. Even reading was nothing was going in the head.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. If there's something you don't understand, we can stop and discuss. If something's not clear.
Okay. However, qualification increases with the study of scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. There arises an imperative for deeper understanding of the 9 forms of sadhana in light of what is favorable and unfavorable for the maturing candidate.
Yeah. Can you notice what's happening here? This dynamic just happened. in other words, the more we discuss about Krishna consciousness, and when we start discussing about the goal, then you automatically reflect, or we automatically want to obtain it. You understand? So that's what's happening. And where Maharaj says here, like study of scriptures. Okay, so now we're studying scriptures together. Yeah. And just by mentioning about the goal, we're thinking, or we're aspiring to more deeply understand. Isn't it? That's just by getting together and studying scripture. Like, you probably wouldn't have had that conclusion, Mother Suniti Priya, about expressing your desire to obtain Krishna. Well, you might have, I don't know. But definitely, you know, you might have been doing something else, shopping or doing something else around the house. But now you're sitting down and we're discussing about Krishna. So automatically, you see, we want to understand more deeply about the process. It's happening. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah.
Or any comments on that, or questions? Okay, can carry on.
By chanting offenselessly, a devotee is revealed of all kinds of sinful reactions and material desires. And for his effort, the Lord blesses him with a variety of spiritual tastes. Such mercy inspires the practitioner to study Gaudiya teaching more closely, as a result of which the basic aspiration to serve like the gopas and gopis of Raj awakens in him.
Yeah, that is technically known. Anyone know what that is technically called?
Love, pure love.
No. There's two types of sadhana.
Bhava Bhakti?
No, two types of sadhana.
Raganuga.
Yes.
Okay,
We've had it
right.
many times in our discussion. So Vaidhi, now Marge is speaking about Raganuga, the aspiration to serve like the gopis and gopis. That's Raganuga sadhana practice.
That awakens in light. With further, nothing's happening anyway. With further purification, a sadhaka experiences a lessening of contrary impulses, an increased taste for bhakti, attachment to Krishna free of reverence, and finally feeling of intimacy.
Yeah, quite advanced stage. Marge is explaining that in very succinct sentence. Yeah.
It should be made clear that cultivating transcendental knowledge is meant to increase a devotee's attachment to Krishna and to his names. Attachment to knowledge should not take precedence over attachment to Krishna. When it does, such a devotee like Bharat Maharaj is known as Jnani Bhakta.
Yeah, Mishra means Mishra, mixed with Gyan, like the predominance is that you want to become knowledgeable. So then it becomes Gyan and Mishra Bhakti, or Gyan and Mishra Bhakti, mixed with Gyan.
But then isn't it not so good, because you're going to go into too much knowledge and not the bhakti side?
Well, Marge mentions that next. He will speak of that.
Okay. Yeah. Knowledge of the ninefold process of devotion is meant to assist a devotee to rise above formal chanting inspired by duty, and to begin chanting with emotion. And such chanting with emotion dawns at the stage of ruchi and gains substance at ashakti.
Yeah, so we have to learn all about that, to bring us to this point. Yeah, so we can rise above formal chanting and chant with emotion and chant with feeling, rather than just chant because we have to chant 16 rounds a day because we made a vow to.
I have a question about
please.
this.
Hare Krishna.
Gyan, like knowledge is an impediment to our bhakti in some ways. But what about when devotees choose to go back to college or go to college with a view to using it in Krishna's service, is that a risky thing to do? Is that like it could be really bad for your devotional life if you make the wrong decision, or what?
Well, first thing, let's be clear that the development of knowledge of the process of pure devotion will actually help us to come to the practice of pure devotion. So that type of knowledge is favorable. Like this, you know, the verse Anyabilasta Sunyam Gyana Kamad Anavitam Anukulian Krishna Silan Bhakti Uttama. That's mainly speaking about knowledge of oneness, or knowledge of Brahman. That we are not interested in. It's called Divigan. You know, we sing in the morning in Guru Puja, Divigan Pakasito. Let that divine knowledge be inspired in our heart. Yeah, the knowledge of pure devotion, the knowledge about pure chanting, etc. So then you mentioned about, say, devotees who then choose as their career or choose as their particular devotional service.
Maybe not even that. I mean, even there are like sannyasis who have chosen to, as sannyasis, go to college and get a PhD for their.
So that's Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was the
one.
Yeah,
he did in Cambridge, wasn't it? Yeah.
Krishna Setra Maharaj is another.
Maharaj, yeah.
So also, I know some friends of mine who have gone in that line in their devotional service, Sachi Kishore and others as well.
Yeah.
And it is not easy, and it's definitely not easy, and there's definitely obstacles in doing that. I mean, I know one devotee, a friend of mine, who was studying archaeology, the history of archaeology, and he was struggling because their concept is their concept of the Vedic culture is definitely is that basically that the Vedic culture didn't exist anyway, and there's no evidence of it. So he was losing his faith. But that's why it's not for everyone, and there are dangers. And one of the dangers is that one can become a Jnana Mishra Bhakti, one more concerned about developing knowledge. So yeah, one has to be very careful. But we also see the positive results, like Krishna Setra Maharaj was in Radhadesh. He was there and he gave a class when we was there. And also if we hear from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So we have to understand their particular motives for doing so is to enhance the credibility of bhakti, or the credibility of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So they're on special missions. They're on special missions to establish the teachings of pure devotion as the real essence, say, of the Vedic Scriptures. And that's what they have done. They've been quite successful to some degree. Like now, a lot of for instance, devotees like Krishna Setra Maharaj and others, they teach in Cambridge or they teach in universities, and they're chosen to teach about Eastern Hinduism, or they're chosen to teach about Hinduism or even Eastern religious practices. So who's teaching it now? In some instances, it's devotees are teaching that. So they're going to refer to Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and they're going to give credibility to Srila Prabhupada, to ISKCON. And that's what Krishna Setra Maharaj has done. And they kind of create a interest in our books, which we have. And now a lot of students, when they study Hinduism, they have to study Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. So they have a particular mission. Also, another one is Hridayananda Maharaj, although he he obtained his PhD many, many years ago when he was a young devotee, because he was studying and Prabhupada told him to continue. So like he's an authority.
Yeah,
Well,
and Garuda Das.
Yeah, and Gurudas. Yeah, so they're authorities in the academia on Hinduism and the Mahabharata, and that they're going to give the correct understanding. They're going to give the correct synopsis. So they're on special. Do you understand? It's like a special. What do you call it? What's it called? A special undercover. Yeah, something when you're spying and you're undercover. You're kind of working behind enemy lines. So as I'm saying, it's not for everyone. I think what was it? Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to read before, because he used to express the how hard it was to hear such mundane stuff when he was studying. So he would specifically have a very strong sadhana in order to be able to tolerate it. He would read about 2 or 3 hours before he would go to his classes. Anyway, like that. I hope that helps. Does that help, Mother?
Yeah, that's good.
So it has to be done with guidance. It's not just if a young devotee starts getting excited about studying, getting the PhD, then he shouldn't be done without guidance. And it shouldn't be done by a younger devotee. I don't think. They should have some experience in devotional service before they go in that direction. Otherwise, they could end up becoming a Jnana Mishra Bhakta.
Also, Mother Urmila has a PhD.
Yeah, Mother Urmila, she is doctor. She's a doctor. She has a PhD, and she studied education, isn't it? I think she did a PhD in education, and she uses that in Krishna consciousness.
Conscious, yes.
Yeah, some people misunderstand. I know, sorry, going off a tangent here. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was misunderstood by one prominent Gaudiya sannyasi at the time. And when he heard that Tamal Krishna Maharaj had gone into university or gone into Cambridge or to attain a PhD, he very much criticized him. And he was criticizing him as deviating from pure devotion. But he was mistaken. Because what did Tamal Krishna Maharaj do as his PhD? No, he did study of Srila Prabhupada. He just based it on Srila Prabhupada. So it was to enhance Prabhupada's standing within academia. And he was successful, and he actually did that. Now they recognize Prabhupada, but this particular, I won't mention the name, but the sannyasi saw that as evidence of a deviation of ISKCON, that its leaders are now going back to school. You can see you have to be very careful. You should in judging a devotee, you have to be really careful. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Well, should we jump back in? I forget where we left off. Perhaps you can continue for a couple more minutes, Chandravali. Ask for someone else like to read. You can put your hand up. I was speaking about, Gyan.
Okay, that was something. That's why I was going to ask.
Yeah, please.
Maharaj, and in the thing he said he was Jnana Bhakta. So he was like, didn't Maharaj say that Maharaj was mixed?
Jnana Mishra.
Yeah, Gyan, wasn't he? I read it somewhere.
Yeah, that was me, said Mishra. Mishra means mixed.
Mixed,
so
yeah. Oh, okay.
Devotion has to be pure. So sometimes the word Mishra is used. It means it's mixed with something. That means it's not pure. There's also Yoga Mishra Bhakti.
But then how could he get to the Bhav platform?
Oh, perhaps I missed your question. So you're speaking specifically about someone?
Bharat Maharaj. I was speaking. That's what Maharaj.
Bharat Maharaj. So your question is?
So how did he get to Bhav platform? Which mixed devotion.
Well, Bharat Maharaj, how did he get? Well, obviously he would have
Can you
got
meet-
there by the same steps that we are following. There's quite a lot of
Yeah, can
interference.
you
I think
meet
it's
some of them?
Yes,
I-
it's Radha Sham. Yeah, she's not on mute and there's a lot of noise coming
okay.
from
Let
there.
me press the mute
Yeah.
button. Okay, I pressed the mute button. It's a good job that I can press the mute button from here as well. It's like playing Space Invaders. Okay, your question. Sorry, Mother Chandra, I misunderstood your question. Now you're asking about Bharat Maharaj and how did he get to Bhava?
Yeah, if he
Well,
was doing mixed
if-
devotional service, then how was he at Bhav platform?
How did you conclude that he's doing mixed devotion service?
But here, doesn't Maharaj say here that, I can't find it now. Didn't he write in a sentence here somewhere? Did anybody hear it?
I can't remember hearing about Bharat
I think
Maharaj.
you're seeing things, Chandravali.
Forget, now I can't find it. It was just
Well-
this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's
But-
not that. Here.
on.
When it does, such a devotee like Bharat Maharaj is known as Jnani Bhakta. So
Which
I was
page? Can you just tell me which page? I want to read the context of that.
374.
374.
Just at the top, about
Top.
6.
Okay. It should be made clear that cultivating transcendental knowledge is meant, it's exactly where we are.
Yeah,
Is meant to increase a devotee's attachment to Krishna and to his names. Attachment to knowledge should not take precedence over attachment to Krishna. When it does, such a devotee like Bharat Maharaj is known as a Jnana Bhakta. Okay, a Jnani Bhakta. Interesting.
So mixed, right? So then I thought he was at Bhav platform when he, so I can't put the two together.
Well, I think Maharaj is indicating here that he wasn't on the path of rag. He wasn't on the path of spontaneous devotional service to Krishna. He was very much, he was a Brahmavadi. If you read descriptions of his ecstasy is based upon doing his sandhya, chanting of mantra, Gayatri mantra. And he would see the sun rising, for example, and he would go into ecstasy at the splendor and grandeur of the Lord.
Okay.
But he didn't have any specific practice of worship of Krishna, or I don't think, unless I have to read it again, even of Vishnu, but he was appreciating God's potency and God's energies and seeing everything as Brahman, which means being everything as a manifestation of spiritual potency of the Lord. So he would watch the sunrise, and and that appreciation led him, or not just that, he was doing quite strict sadhana. He was taking bath every day in the sacred waters. He was doing sacred yagna, fire, sacrifice. He was chanting mantras. He was very strong. He was very strict, very sense controlled. And all of this led him to become purified, and that led him to experience emotion, spiritual emotion. But he was predominantly a Jnani Bhakta. So he had knowledge of the Lord's omnipotence and omnipresence. So he fell down. But that's quite a unique story. It was based on spiritual emotions. It's a classic example of in like a needle and out like a plow. Everyone heard that example? You've heard that example?
Yeah.
It's where Maya comes in so subtly. Slowly, that you don't notice Maya coming. So that was we've read to the whole story, but we know it. Just because he had become purified, he was naturally compassionate upon any suffering jiva. That's just the nature of a purified soul. So when he saw the deer, we know the story, the foal and the deer, and he felt compassion, which is natural for a sadhu. But that was wrongly placed. Compassion, it wasn't directed. There wasn't anyone to actually guide him, to tell him, hey man, what are you doing? You're neglecting your rounds, you're neglecting your practice. And as we know, one thing led to another. So as much as I can say on that, so it's interesting. It's good. It's well done for noting that.
I still got a little thing.
Yeah. So you know, bhava is not just for Krishna bhaktas. Bhava can be reached.
Okay, that's where I'm going. Okay.
But it's what their emotion, the subject of their emotion will be different. Obviously, for a Krishna bhakta, when he reaches bhava, that bhava is going to be inspired by the moods of Radharani, Krishna, their pastimes, like that. But the Gyani, who's very advanced, their bhava will be based on the Lord's knowledge of the Lord's greatness and omnipotence. Yeah, but and of the two, the Krishna, the bhava bhakta, the Krishna devotee, is more safely situated because he's under the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And there is stories of Gyanis who achieve very high states of perfection, where they fall down. Sabari Muni is one, as we know. He become attracted to two fish courting. Not the most disturbing thing to see. But he became, because he didn't have the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. There's one verse that describes that as well. Without shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, then one would eventually fall down. So so bhava, in the sense, so bhava can be is experienced by different, and those who attain different stages of perfection in their spiritual practice. Yeah, even Christians will, even strict Muslims, they would experience, those who are following nicely, they would experience spiritual emotion in regards to their worshipful Lord.
Okay.
Is that clear? Yeah.
Because I got confused with you when you said that his meditation was like grandeur, like Krishna, and then I was connecting with bhava being like a gopi, like
no, it's
love.
not. It's an interesting thing you bring out. Bhava is a common term given to emotion.
Right. Yes.
Spiritual emotion, but for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the subject is going to be Radha Krishna.
Radha Krishna. That's it. Okay. Now I understand that word. Okay. Okay.
Where was we?
Read of this Karunamai wants to read. She can.
Yeah, go ahead, Karunamai, mother. If you can. I think we're right there where we just read.
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I think.
Yeah. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasizes that without attachment to Krishna, a devotee, despite long years of service, will not attain love. Devotional perfection is very difficult to attain for two reasons. First, unless one is attached to Krishna, he cannot attain devotional perfection, even if he renders devotional service for a long time. Second, Krishna does not easily deliver perfection in devotional service. From this verse, it is clear that a devotee's bhakti must progress through the stage of attachment in its varying phases to qualify for transcendence. When sadhana was substantive, attachment to Krishna and his name, its nature, is similar to the sadhya it targets. Similarly, because chanting must be pure in order to awaken prema, a devotee must rise beyond namaprad and namabhas and enter into the realm of Sudanam. At this point, we should disclose a well-known secret. The mere movement of the tongue and lips does not invoke Krishna's holy name. Krishna's divine name manifests by its own will. I'll start again on that one. Krishna's divine name manifests by its own will upon the senses when it is satisfied with the sadhaka's genuine service attitude. That is Sudhanam. When having rejected all unfavorable habits, a devotee chants the Maha Mantra with an exclusively favorable attachment to Krishna, then he becomes eligible to cultivate the kind of name that quickly bestows the seed of love. Chanting Sudhanam with the desire to attain Bhav is to chant with spiritual emotion.
Okay,
The
any
emotions
questions about that? Any questions there or clarifications? I think this is coming from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He mentions this, that the mere movement of tongue and lips does not invoke Krishna's holy name. So I think we discussed this before. It's not something mechanical. Yeah. Spiritual life is the opposite of material life. Yeah. And material life is mechanical. Yeah. You want something, then you do something to get it. You understand? If you want something specific, then you do something specific and you get it. It's not dependent upon, well, ultimately everything's dependent upon Krishna. It's not dependent upon anything external. I think I always give example. If you want a cheesecake, then you get money and you pay for a cheesecake. It's simple, no? £2.50 a slice in Govinda's restaurant. How much does it cost a slice cheesecake? Anyway, let's not get distracted by cheesecake. But okay, so then you sit down and you want Krishna's grace and mercy. Okay, here's a mantra. It says Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. That's it. Okay, chant the mantra and it should happen within half an hour. No, that's approaching it in a mechanical way. Yeah, so that's what it says here. Krishna's, yeah, it's not just by mechanically. Krishna has to manifest himself. Yeah. I mean, that's why we sometimes experience when we're chanting Hare Krishna, sometimes it can be very dry, isn't it? And we're distracted. And sometimes it can be very wonderful and very sweet. Why is that? Because Krishna, by his own will, it says here, Krishna has manifested by his own will upon the senses when he is satisfied with the devotee's genuine service attitude. And that's what we're looking for, that genuine service attitude. And that's going to be described now. Maharaj is going to be describing what that attitude is to invoke Krishna's attention, to attract Krishna. So it's not just mechanical. That's why he's saying you can chant for many, many years, but if you heard this saying, he's got a bad attitude, man. If the attitude is wrong, so how's the attitude going to be right? If we read and we hear about pure devotion, then we can refine it. So that's what we're doing in Vaidhi, is we're constantly refining our attitude. Refining, just identifying material motives in our practice and refine, no, I'm not going to cook the Raj bhog because of this, because of that. No, I'm not going to make garlands because of this and that. I'm doing it. I'm not going to make, see, you may do it like we're making a garland and everyone, we wait till this garland gets offered. Everyone's going to see what a great garland maker I am. I'll dress that. Or I'll do bhajans, I mean, you get the idea. So that's not good attitude, and Krishna's not going to manifest. Of course, it's not all bad news because that's part of the process. We get rid of things, anartha and vritti. Yeah, so Maharaj is going to describe now about the mood, about the attitude and the type of mentality. Okay, can continue, Mother, unless there's any.
A quick
yeah.
Emotions cultivated and tasted
one
by
second,
a sadhaka.
Chandravali had one question there.
Yeah, I was, where Maharaj is saying like you chant with emotions.
Yeah.
Not like you said, dry. So what's the emotions? Can you like?
Well, Marge will describe
Begging.
that later. Yeah, Marge. Yeah,
He's
actually,
right?
so actually, Sunita Priya is not far wrong. It's basically the emotion that we want to cultivate in our stage is separation. So we actually want Krishna, and that's the mood we're chanting. Yeah. Now, other details of that, as far as there's words for aspiring for specific perfections.
Yeah.
It's given in the songs. No, but the beginning stage, and not just the beginning, but the underlying mood or emotion. This is called Bhava Seva. Marge, there's a whole chapter on this coming up later on
Okay.
Bhava Seva, which is Ripalamba. So often we can forget that. I mean, I often forget as well. I sit down and chant japa,
Chanting,
and I'm not mindful of being separated from Krishna. I'm just doing my duty. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. No, stop. Put some emotion to it. It's something we don't have, and we're trying to achieve. And chant. And put your heart there and chant the holy name with that mood. And you're really. And Maharaj also describes about, in order to cultivate that mood, then we hear about Ripalamba as well. And we hear about separation, songs of separation, and helps us to cultivate that feeling.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Yeah, go on.
The emotions cultivated and tasted by a sadhaka are genuine humility, feelings of separation, and attraction to prema bhakti. Since these emotions have already been discussed in earlier chapters and shall be thoroughly described in part 7, we only touch upon them here. In his Shikshastaka, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the cultivation of humility as a requisite to pure chanting. One who thinks himself lower than a grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. This verse urges the sadhaka to cultivate humility in 3 ways: mentally, verbally, and physically. Such conduct gives rise to a concomitant emotion that is attractive to Krishna and thus conducive to appearance of prema. While this kind of humility is different from dhyana, the utter worthlessness that a devotee at prema feels, it is nonetheless a favorable emotion that will mature with higher attainment.
Yeah, you understand is that okay, we sometimes when we speak about emotions, sometimes we can be a little bit apprehensive. We have some idea of being a sahaja, it's very much emphasized in our classes, is that we don't want to impersonate emotions, or we don't want to imagine an emotion that's not there. So sometimes we can take that too far, in that we're being asked to meditate on the aspect of the emotion of humility and separation, and that anyone can do. Yeah, and it's not being a sahaja. if we're developing to chant in the mood of separation, it's not artificial. I mean, it's different if we're artificially thinking we are Rati Manjari or something like that. Then that would be sahajism. But it's not sahaja to meditate upon how separate, how distant we feel to Krishna, and to chant with that emotion. That's called Bhava Seva. There's supposed to be with some mood. So when we say Bhava Seva, we're not meaning the stage of Bhava. We're taking the word Bhava meaning emotion here. So our devotional practices should have some emotion there. Yeah, and so sometimes so we have to put it there. We have to meditate on the mood. Yeah, it's not going to just jump out the sky, you know, and you know, it's not going to manifest unless we cultivate it. Yeah. Sorry, I keep jumping in. Yeah, sorry. Carry on, Mother.
The next emotion is Vipralamba. In his conditioned state, a devotee can experience some feelings of separation, even if those feelings are immature. Feelings of separation are possible due to the polarizing dynamic that sincere attachment to Krishna brings about. Having attained a Shakti, a devotee is strongly attached to Krishna, but not yet qualified to see him.
Yeah,
Feeling
anyone know what a Shakti, anyone can say what a Shakti is in a few words? It comes after Bhava.
Attachment, isn't it? A Shakti.
Attraction.
Comes
Attraction.
after.
Yeah, that's it. Mother Sacha. It's like attraction. I think that was it. It's attraction. It's attraction which you don't have which you don't have any choice about. The heart is so pure that, like a magnet, you're attracted to Krishna. Yeah, in the same way that we have a Shakti to the material energy, we're completely attracted to it, and it's not as if we have to try and become attracted to the material energy. It's just there. So that same attraction, when it's to Krishna, that's called a Shakti. Okay. So jumped in again.
Feeling distant from the object of his love, a practitioner feels desolate and thus experiences a shadow of emotions expressed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My Lord Govinda, because of separation from you, I can consider even a moment a great millennium. Tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I see the entire world as void. The simple understanding is that the feelings of separation vary in proportion to the degree to which one is attached to Krishna. When a devotee serves and chants with such feelings, his devotion is nourished, thereby increasing his eligibility to attract Krishna's attention. The third aspect of chanting with emotion, attraction to prema, is related to the feelings of separation. Emotion manifests in a form of a strong longing for loving devotion. Such longing arises whenever a devotee hears of the beauty and charm of loving exchanges between Krishna and his Vrajvasi associates. A devotee will give vent to his longing for meditating on or singing about Rajalila, only to find that such expression increases his longing further. The following song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes the kind of longing. Okay. When, oh, when will that day be mine? When my offenses ceasing, taste for the name increasing? When in my heart will your mercies shine? When, oh, when will that day be mine? This is a lovely bhajan.
Yeah, it is. I try. It's begin. I think it's Kabe Hebo Bolo Se Nama Aparada Gucci Sudana Maruti Kripa Bali Hebe Hutaya Sancha. I was like, yeah. Aparada Gucci Sudana Maruti Kripa Bali Hebe Hutaya Sancha. Yeah, that's also a sadhana of Vaishnavas as well, is to sing these songs. As it's really, I don't know if Devot said, if you had the experience, it's good to just read the translation of the songs before you sing them, just sing the songs, you know, and try and meditate upon the meaning of the songs. And we can kind of gate crash into the emotions which is being expressed there. Okay, we might not be able to fully comprehend it in its full sense of the term, but these songs invoke emotion Yeah, that's why they're there. These bhajans are there. Yeah, Bhakno Thakur. So many bhajans. Such. Yeah. Can continue, Mo.
While this kind of longing in an immature sadhaka is a shadow of its transcendental counterpart, it is helpful in nourishing pure Nam Sankirtan. However, because of its flickering nature, such sadhana is not easily sustained. What to speak of perfected? And yet, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, devotees experience it, and by that experience, they are enthused. Keeping the company of like-minded souls, hearing about the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and worshipping the deities of Radha Krishna all act to propel from strength to strength a devotee's desire to serve like a gopa or gopi. In time, that desire enables him to chant Hare Krishna with emotion, and when his humility matures into danya, his sadhana will bear the fruit of ecstatic devotion.
Yeah, anyone know what
chapter,
Marge mentioned? Danya. Because we remember what that is. He said it earlier on.
yeah,
Danya. Let's just go back. Let's find it. It means utter. It means I can say utter devastation.
Yeah.
There is nothing in this world. The whole world is void and empty without Krishna's grace. Yeah, Danya. Very deep mood. Nothing can give them a joy in this world. Tama Kinchana Gochara. Yeah. So that's when that humility it manifests into this deep Danya. Yeah. Yeah, let's finish this chapter. Now we've got one. Just finish this page. And then
Oh, yeah.
This
end of the
chapter
chapter.
concludes by citing a verse from Rig Veda that glorifies the spiritual development that practitioners pass through by grace of sublime signs of hearing about Krishna and chanting his names. O most worshipable Lord, I offer respectful obeisances to your lotus feet again and again. Hearing the glories of your lotus feet may give devotees a qualification for fame and liberation, but of what value are those attainments? More glorious are those devotees who discuss the shelter of your lotus feet as their supreme destination, and together cultivate their service relationship with you through the performance of Nam Sankirtan. When attachment appears in their hearts, they receive the shelter of your pure name and so quickly achieve vision of your lotus feet.
Hare Krishna. So that finishes chapter 20. So chapter 21 is titled Cause and Nourishment of Sankalpa. Okay, any last questions? Looking at this chapter, seeing how long it is. So, guys, so just ask just before we sign off. Is there something which you heard this evening or you read this evening which you're going to take away with you? Something that resonated with you? Any aha moments?
Well, I'm just painfully aware that I don't feel separation from Krishna, not because I'm like connected with him, but I just I feel like, maybe I feel Krishna more sometimes in my life and other times less, but I still seem to be the same. I never feel like devastating separation from Krishna.
Yeah,
It's so painful. I don't know why I can't, but
you're not the only one.
That's what I was going to tell you, Labanga. It's like reading this has made me depressed. Like too much read, too much chanting, and which way to go, and it's just like Krishna.
No, so
behind.
Yeah, but it's something we should reflect upon as we're moving around in this world. as we're engaged in devotional service, but how much do we know Krishna? I mean, how much do we really relish about Krishna, his name, fame, qualities, and pastimes? But so I think we just have to reflect and meditate on what is it? There's one word I often use, I forget it now, I'm a bit tired, but on the existential, that's it. Just meditate on the existential situation. We are separated from Krishna. We have a loving relationship with Krishna. We have forgotten Krishna. And we're in this world of matter. Sometimes we get, mostly, we're distracted from that, dealing with the things of the day and the things to get done. And, we can forget our very precarious situation here. One time, I think I might have said this before, I had a bit of a aha moment one time when I'm going to and from the temple. If I'm not on my bike, then I don't like to chant japa my rounds then, because I find it too distracting. So I learn the verse. And there's one verse I was learning, and it's about the sound of Krishna's flute. It's from the Vedic Gita. Trying to learn it, it's nice. And I was walking down the street, and because I've had it sometimes, the crumbled bits of paper. Paper's quite creased. Anyway, I get to the point. The point is that I was in the middle of Oxford Street or somewhere in London, in the middle of Oxford Street, complete material energy, pulsating, very intense, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And here I am with this little bit of paper, which is telling me about Krishna. And Krishna's millions and millions in the spiritual. All I have is this little bit of paper, which is telling me about the beauty of Krishna's flute playing. And you understand? So that I thought, and I felt a little bit of a kind of crisis of being in the material world and completely lost in this world of matter. So sometimes we have to just stop and think about, again, our existential situation here. Are we Krishna? Do we know what our relationship with Krishna, etc.? Do we actually know Krishna?
Okay, can I ask you that situation? Like you was reading that little slok, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how I was going to ask you was like, so you're making that endeavor. Is there any emotions there or anything like that? Like we make endeavors whenever we get chance to do it. But I'm just thinking that, you know what I mean,
Yeah, well, I think, just back to back to the main point, I have to be reminded, and Marge, let me see what chapter it is. There's a whole chapter Marge speaks about this Vripalamba, cultivating Vripalamba. It's on page 693. We're on page 379 now. So there's a whole chapter dedicated to it. And if I remember rightly, Maharaj is reminding us, like Maharaj is reminding me, and we're reminding each other to cultivate these feelings of separation. And Mother Luvanga has expressed something which we all experience. Sometimes we just don't feel that separation. But I'm sharing ways where we should stand and stop and meditate on how far we are away from Krishna and the place we are situated, and how much misery is there here in this material world. And it doesn't take much, actually. And that will help to cultivate this mood of being separated from Krishna. Because separation means that, what does that mean? Separation means to Krishna, it means that you want him. If you don't feel separation, that means you don't want him. Isn't it? If we look at it, means we're not so bothered. We may not be. But separation means, if you're separated from the lover, that means you're absorbed in the beloved, and you want union, and you want to meet with the beloved. But if you don't care, if you don't think of the beloved so much, then So Krishna's not going to. So Krishna will, of course, Krishna's very kind. You know, once we take up the path of bhakti, okay, we're sadhakas, so we fall into being very familiar with the material world. So because at some point we have, in an emotional way, given ourselves to Krishna, so Krishna's taken note of that. So if we get over familiar with the material world, Krishna's going to shake it up. Krishna's very expert in arranging things to make us desperate for him, to make us call out for him. Yeah, that's Krishna. Krishna's got a way of making us grab those beads like it's the last breath we have. You know, that's Krishna's kindness. So if we get into familiar with the material world, and so I'm taking a point further than what the example Mother Lavanga is giving, you know, we really become familiar with the world and start thinking this place is a place where we can enjoy and stay. Oh, that card's marked. Krishna's going to be Krishna's kindness. What's in that sense, what can we say next? Well, Prabhupada says he gives himself as an example of Krishna's special mercy.
He takes everything away.
Yeah, he takes everything away. And he just leaves you with one direction. Every direction is being closed. Every bridge has been blown up. Say it's termed modern. Every bridge has been blown up. Nothing else. There's no other way to go. You can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go backwards. It's just Krishna's lotus feet. And that's Krishna's mercy. Yeah. It takes it, yeah. Take away and all other destruction. And that's what he did. So Prabhupada also, he's a Nitya Siddha, but he had this pastime of, you know, being a householder, etc. And a businessman, and Krishna closed it all down. You know, and just one path left. That's Krishna's grace. Yeah. Oh, nice. That Krishna's going to help us to come to that. If we're becoming too familiar, Krishna's going to help us to become unfamiliar. All right, should we stop there on that happy meditation? so everyone, try tomorrow during your japa. Before you start your japa, just think of this discussion we had today, and think of how much you want to achieve Krishna, how far you're away from Krishna, and then try and invest that mood in your chanting. Yeah. Okay. Right, we'll stop there then. Very, very nice to get back to reading. I mean, I was really missing this Sangha actually this last week. Hopefully I'll be okay for tomorrow. Let's see, I'll confirm it. Let's say it's going to go ahead. Yeah, I just need Sringavacha to give the Bhagavad Gita class here in Cologne in instead of me. I'm sure you do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. It's great, Murli Prabhu. Please, yeah. Thank you for the love.
So I'm going to end meeting for all. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.